In finance and business, Indian Americans are boardroom regulars. In healthcare, 1 in 10 US doctors is of Indian origin. 60% of all US hotels are Indian owned. And they are not just working hard, the data shows that they are doing very well. Today, I am decoding the global success of the Indian diaspora. Have you ever stopped and wondered why is it that so many Indians seem to be everywhere at the top? From corner offices of the Silicon Valley to the deans of the Ivy League colleges, even leading Fortune 500 companies, there's an Indian face making big moves. Indian origin leaders have made a powerful mark across sectors in the United States, not just in tech, but in pharma, finance, and major global enterprises. Everyone knows about Sundar Pichai and Satya Nadella from tech, but very few are aware that Indians are at the top of companies like Novartis, Flex, and even Chanel, to name a few. Indian Americans don't just work in tech, we run it. We account for a third of all tech startups in Silicon Valley, 8% of all high-tech founders in the US. Nearly 40% of all CEOs and founders in the Valley are of Indian origin. Since 2018, Indian Americans have founded or co-founded 72 unicorns, companies worth over 195 billion US dollars, employing more than 55,000 people. In healthcare, 1 in 10 US doctors is of Indian origin. Together, they serve nearly 30% of America's patient population. In finance and business, Indian Americans are boardroom regulars. From Wall Street to Fortune 500s, their presence is felt and respected. Even in hospitality, their mark is undeniable. 60% of all US hotels are Indian owned. That's hustle, that's scale. And they are not just working hard. The data shows that they are doing very well. In 2022, the median household income of Indian Americans was 145,000 US dollars. That's more than double the national average. And poverty, just 6% live at or below the poverty line. That's not luck. That's legacy being built every day. But how did we get there? Is it just about being good at math, science, and business? Or is there something deeper? Something in the way we are raised, the way we think, our scarcity mindset, or maybe even in the way the world works? Hi, I'm Priya from It's Ok Yaar, and this is our new series, Decoded. And today I am decoding the global success of the Indian diaspora, especially in the US, and unpacking what really drives this rise. We've taken into consideration multiple parameters to decode this success. While some were obvious to us during our research, some of them were quite unique and eye-opening. So stay with us for the entire video and hit that like and subscribe button if you enjoy it and want more such content. Let's get started. Number 1, Indian upbringing, where it all begins. Let's start at the beginning, home. Growing up in an Indian household is intense. There's love, of course, but also expectations. And a lot of beta. Did you study today? There's an unspoken understanding in many Indian families. Your future is your family's legacy. Success is a collective goal and education is the chosen path. That's why we need to break this down, because behind every Indian success story in the US is a journey shaped by academic rigor and competitive spirit. India's education system is famously competitive. From the time we are kids, we are taught that marks matter a lot. Exams like IDJ or NEET, they are not just tests, they are life-shaping events. I'm not saying there aren't flaws in our education system, they definitely are. But there are some good things about it that help us prepare for the world outside. You are expected to study 10 to 12 hours a day. It isn't just about cracking an exam. It is about proving that you belong among the best. In a country where education is your ticket to a better life, you end up doing the best you can. That pressure builds resilience. So when Indian students land in Harvard or MIT or start working at Google, they've already seen stress and survived it. And here's the data to back it up. In 2023, a remarkable 81% of Indian immigrants aged 25 and over had at least a bachelor's degree. That's more than double the rate of US-born adults. Nearly half of all Indian immigrants had a graduate or a professional degree, 3 times higher than the national average. Risk-taking and adaptability. It's not just about academics. There is a deep cultural legacy of migration and risk-taking. Our ancestors were laborers, traders, seafarers, entrepreneurs. So when Indians move abroad today, we bring that same grit. Indians adapt fast. Whether it's changing careers, learning a new system, or building a business from scratch, we know how to take calculated risks. And then comes hard work, frugality, and future-first thinking. Indians are raised to think long-term, work hard, save, build, provide. It stems from our history of being starved for resources that inculcate the habit of saving for a rainy day. unlike that in the West, which tends to follow a more consumerist mindset. We've all heard stories of people living paycheck to paycheck but buying the latest iPhone or the designer bag. Not saying indulging is wrong, but our frugality mindset has helped us in the long run. Yes, stops us from enjoying our lives in the moment, but I guess that's the price we pay. We don't just dream, we plan. We are not interested in going out every weekend. We save that money for our kids' education or a home. That's just how we think. That mindset plus the drive sets up not just one generation but the next ones too. But upbringing is only one part of the equation. There are some other factors at play like systemic and structural factors, which means the outside help. Let's be real. Individual effort needs an ecosystem. Back in the day, from 1820 to 1959, only about 13,000 Indians had immigrated to the US. Because traveling to the US in the 1800s and early 1900s was a long, expensive, and dangerous. Only a few merchants, students, or laborers, mainly from Punjab, managed to make it, often working on farms, railroads, or lumber mills on the west coast. Until 1947, India was under British rule, which limited international mobility. Passports and travels were tightly controlled and immigration wasn't encouraged. Even for those who came, life was hard. They faced racism, segregation, and violence. Many couldn't own land or marry outside their race due to discriminatory laws. But in 1965, everything changed thanks to the Immigration and Nationality Act. Immigration policies that opened doors. In the 1960s and 70s, India faced poverty, limited jobs, and a closed economy. The US, on the other hand, offered better pay, more jobs, and a higher standard of living, especially for skilled professionals. After the 1965 Immigration Act, the US actively recruited doctors, engineers, scientists, and academics. Indian universities were producing brilliant minds, but India couldn't absorb them all. So many left in search of opportunity. The US became a top destination for higher education, offering scholarships and research opportunities that weren't widely available in India. Many Indian students stayed after graduation. Personal freedom, democracy, and political stability, which appealed to many Indians looking for a better life for their families. A new generation of Indians was becoming more globally ambitious. Moving abroad, especially to the US, was seen as a bold step towards success and upward mobility. By the end of the 70s, more Indians had immigrated to the US than in the entire previous century combined. The first wave, they built routes, and the next wave built rockets. Let's see how they did this. In 1990, President George Bush introduced the H-1B visa and opened the doors of America to highly skilled foreign workers, especially in fields like technology, engineering, medicine, and finance. And no one walked through that door faster and more successfully than Indians. The H-1B was tailor-made for India's rising middle class, highly educated, English-speaking, trained in STEM. Thousands of Indian engineers and IT professionals fresh from Indian colleges and tech parks landed in the Silicon Valley. Indian H-1B holders helped build the modern tech industry, working at Google, Microsoft, Intel, and thousands of startups. They became the quiet force powering the Y2K solutions, cloud computing, software development, and the backend systems. With H-1B came families, children, and roots. From Edison, New Jersey to Fremont, California, Little Indias began to thrive. Indian grocery stores, temples, dance classes, cricket leagues, everything followed. But there were a few fundamental problems with the H-1B visa. Number one, it's temporary by design. The H-1B is not a path to citizenship, it's a work visa tied to an employer, often leaving workers vulnerable. Lose your job, lose your visa, want to change jobs, navigate red tape, start your own business, not so easy. Number two, green card backlog hell. Because of annual poor country quotas, Indian H-1B workers face decade-long wait for green cards. Imagine building a life, buying a house, raising children while never knowing when you may be asked to leave. Number three, second generation stuck in the grey. Children of H-1B holders, often called documented dreamers, often grow up American but age out of the system when they turn 21. Then they either self-deport or scramble for other visas. Number four, political ping pong. Over the years, H-1B have been a political punching bag, blamed for taking jobs, caught in election time rhetoric, and burdened with ever-changing rules. This visa has been a boon and bane for Indians living and working in the US. The H-1B brought prosperity, pride, and progress, but also anxiety, insecurity, and a sense of being forever temporary. It made America's tech dreams possible, but made Indians' dreams harder to fully realize. In 2018, 38% of Indian green card recipients earned them through employment-based channels, nearly triple the national average. Whatever the merits and demerits of the H-1B visa, it did inspire thousands of Indians to take up this path of studying abroad and eventually working in the US. In the 2000s, Indian students started arriving in droves. And the reason was higher education access. Today, Indians are one of the largest international student population in the US, with many pursuing master's degrees, especially in STEM fields. But why STEM? Well, in post-independence India, a good education was seen as the most reliable path out of poverty and into respectability. Fields like engineering and medicine were regarded as the gold standard, a ticket to success both at home and abroad. Indian families invested everything, money, time, emotional pressure into their children's academic success. Sharma ji ka beta wasn't just a meme, it was a mindset. By the late 80s and 90s, the global economy was becoming tech driven. The US needed coders, IT support, engineers, and analysts fast. India had a surplus of English speaking, technically trained graduates from institutions like the IITs, NITs, and regional colleges. This created a perfect match. America had demand, India had the supply. The H-1B system rewarded STEM, not storytellers. The H-1B visa program is job driven. It favors applicants who bring specialty occupations mainly in tech, healthcare, engineering, and finance. If you were a poet or a filmmaker or a historian, the visa system wasn't designed for you. But if you could write Java or build a data pipeline, you had a shot. This funneled Indian ambition into STEM fields because that's where immigration opportunities were. Choosing STEM wasn't just about passion, it was a practical survival. But this laser focus on STEM also came at a cost. The arts, humanities, politics, media fields that shape the narrative and power have seen slower Indian representation. Only recently are we seeing a broader spectrum of Indian American voices in film, TV, literature, activism, and journalism. But back then, we did what we had to do. We chose STEM because it was safe, smart, and strategic. It gave us jobs, visas, security, and ultimately success. Community support systems. No Indian is ever really alone abroad. And if they are, they quickly seek a community. If an Indian student or a worker lands in the US today, they're almost always a senior or a cousin who helps them find housing, tells them where to get groceries, how to file taxes, everything. And if you don't find them, you always have a channel, page like ours to fill that gap. It's not just networking, it's a lifeline. Storms faced and weathered. Look at what's happening now. Under the Trump administration, legal immigration is facing major headwinds. The H-1B program has come under scrutiny. Spouses of H-1B holders, the H-4 visa holders, are facing restrictions that are halting careers and creating emotional and financial strain. And then there's the green card backlog. Already slowed by poor country quotas, it has become a nightmare for Indian applicants with wait times stretching into decades. Processing times are getting painfully longer and the sense of predictability is disappearing. Legal immigration feels like a game of chance. But the Indian American community, we are holding on. Because behind every struggle, we see a purpose. Cultural values and family stability. Behind the scenes, what really powers Indian success is values. 94% of Indian American families with children are in stable marriages. There's a deep rooted belief that funding your child's education isn't optional, it's your duty. That kind of stability builds focus, confidence, and the foundation of a long term success. When Indian immigrants moved to the US, they carried this mindset with them. Even in a new land, the old script remained. Be a doctor, be an engineer, be anything as long as it's secure. And to be fair, it worked. Their kids grew up to earn higher salaries, buy homes, and live comfortably. But success came with scars. Indian kids raised in America were caught between cultures, pressured to pursue paths they didn't always choose. Many endured years of friction, silence, or resentment. Creativity was discouraged, emotions were sidelined. Relationship with parents were strained, even broken for the sake of stability. It wasn't always healthy, it wasn't always fair. But that's the thing about Indian parents. They did what they had to do, even if it meant becoming the villains of their kids' stories for a while. In contrast, many American families took on massive student debt to send their kids to college. Some graduates spent 10, 15, or 20 years repaying loans with interest piling up. But for many Indian American students, education was prepaid in full by savings, sacrifice, or gold pawned by grandparents. That head start made a difference. While others were paying off degrees, Indian grads were saving, investing, or buying homes. That's how generational wealth and generational pressure got passed on at the same time. What does it all mean? Why do Indians succeed abroad? Because we are driven, disciplined, and used to pressure. Because we adapt fast and think long term. Because policies open doors and communities helped us walk through. Because we believe in education, values, and building something better, not just for ourselves, but for generations. And this success story, it's not just an Indian win, it's a global game. Indian Americans have shown what's possible when you blend education, efforts, value, and vision. It's not just any success story, it's the American dream realized with Indian grit and determination. So that's our take on the Indian diaspora success decoded. I hope you found this helpful. If there's a part of the story you relate to or want us to explore deeper, tell us in comments. We would love to hear from you. And if things aren't going your way, remember it's okay, yaar, because they will eventually turn around. Until next time, this is Priya signing off. Have a wonderful day.